relationship between 1 and 2, which is I am will to taste and xzaayzyx. I am will to taste serves as essentially a skeleton key, and the definition of a skeleton key is, for instance, with interdimensional, the skeleton key, interdimensional black hole, right? You needed something which could drive you to eating. Right? That's interdimensional. We're all about finding something that can make you eat, and black hole was eating. So skeleton key was anything that you can plug into interdimensional to always get eating. Right? So skeleton key is just, instead of looking for a different thing every time, it's just something that will work every time. So we use the story, right? We use orbify, which basically just think about the story if you want to get to eating, get where you need to go. And that was a skeleton key framework. And that, I just want to point out, I'm framework while I'm speaking for very possibly the first time ever. I framework at work multiple times over the last few days. Yeah, growing in power. Anyways, back to what I was speaking on. I'm also speaking for several layers of inebriation after a night's shift of work, and so after about 5 hours of sleep last night, 2 days in a row, work 3 days in a row, 3 9 hours. So anyway, I'm just busting it, wasting time. But anyways, the point is I'm pretty exhausted right now, and the framework is still allowing me to speak through it. What's the point I was trying to make? So to get back to it, it's also allowed me to remember, which is absurd. So the interdimensional skeleton key was orbify, but for this one, the interdimensional skeleton key is so it's complicated because the skeleton key to get to xzaayzyx, and that's extremely complicated because you technically don't need 1 to get to 2. In other words, you technically do not need I am will to taste to get to xzaayzyx. It just serves as an angle which will always get you there. So if you're ever in need, if you're ever in doubt, and you just need a quick spark, if you're at work and you just want a quick upper to get you going, you know what I mean? If you find yourself thinking about random foolish nonsense, you can just slap it with the I am will to taste, and that will immediately get you trending towards xzaayzyx. xzaayzyx is so interesting. And yay, in one capacity, which is that it inherently deals with something which just doesn't fuck with language one tiny bit. Despises it, actually. More than any other framework has, because it's not that I'm having trouble getting it into language. It's at the very structure. If you pin it down in language, you're and of course this goes for any religious concept. I mean in a very specific framework way. Like literally this framework is built. I'll just explain how the framework. I was just going that. So the framework itself is xzaayzyx is what I'm talking right now. Is bizarre. It is extremely open-ended, is the way I explain it. It's so to explain it as anything which makes you eat is possible. It works. It's technically correct. But it gets more complicated than that, really what it means is just truth is how we put it. Every angle is how we put it. All context is how we put it. I mean, really, when it gets down to it, I think that. Well, okay, so I think that in all the contexts is one of my favorite examples. My favorite examples, because if you understand, also, by the way, Jesus fucking Christ, the swing. I was thinking about places to take the second dirt bike down. So it's like, I guess not. I'm going to go fucking stay somewhere. So I decided to swing. And Jesus Christ, fall right now. There's little leaves falling down. These fucking gorgeous. But that's by the point. Anytime I'm in we're going to talk about. We were talking about how essentially, I really had it. I don't know how to say it. Let me say it again. We're talking about how in context everything. How essentially you have what this. It's like you're trying to understand. No, that has a very negative connotation. Good. The way I explain it is it's like I'm trying to remember every piece of content I've ever come up with and bring it together. It's like the flow of consciousness. It's like I'm thinking about thrashing is will to taste, and how will to taste means that you should eat, and the eating, you know what I mean, is God, and that God would eat, and that God is all love, because God is like God loves eating, God wills to eat, and now we are eating, we're here eating, and this is what God would love, and I am God, and frameworks and fucking textures and nuances, you got to pure nuances and difference within it. I mean, it's like my brain is just trying to piece the entire puzzle together. And, like that's what ego's taste served as for a while, was like a package that was yet to be unpacked. Like as soon as that one was over, when ego's taste meant wasn't one thing. It didn't mean the words ego's taste. It was this box which held all of these different ideas. It held will to taste. It held the divine taste. It held understanding of will to power. It held all the old concepts of God. It was just this like. But it didn't mean one thing. It meant a ton of different things, all wrapped up into one bundle. Basically, meant everything you ever learned. You know what I mean? It meant the most current concept of truth. And xzaayzyx does the same thing except intentionally. I now understand why that is so useful. I'll delve into that another time. But I just want to get the connection down. But it being open-ended makes it extremely versatile. It just fits in any crack in reality. So pause. But yeah, okay, I will. Not right now. There's a connection. Hope that helps. Spring makes me laugh out loud to myself like an insane person. When I'm working, oh my god, there are times where I'm just like fucking dying. I just the banter that goes out of my head. And and there are people around. It makes it interesting. But the issue is it just makes it funnier because then I begin laughing at me laughing. It's like a classic. Like kind of how in school, those become much funnier because you're not allowed to laugh at them. Then it becomes a self-referential laugh loop. Same thing where I walked around the corner smiling at something I was thinking about, and this one just looked terrified. I have no idea what her deal was. That was very funny. It's conversion. It's about breathing. It's about converting the breathing into exzaayzyx. How to do that? Is using time of pace you are going to begin to consume breathing, and having it properly consumed the breathing, properly digested, it's not like a spider, not saying it's creature breathing. Having transfer it into that part is it. Again, not part is using the part is loving the breath. Always the result of time of pace properly. Because it's just legal. You're right, the legal for doing like the contact, acting on it properly. So just some of the work that you're getting there. So you're going to be
I couldn't understand a word of that.
Yeah, neither did.
The answer to every question is xzaayzyx. After you realize xzaayzyx, you can't help but eat. Xzaayzyx is the realization itself that creates eating. You use I am will to taste to convert breathing into xzaayzyx. Pure silence, pure noise, a million light ups, the in between. I'm talking about the Rev limiter framework right there.
Real quick, it is down for making versus therapy with instruments, and it's conversion, it's about breathing, it's about converting the breathing into exzaayzyx.
And I say, so an ego is to taste is the only regenerator of thought textures. Only exists when you need a kickstart. You aren't trying to figure out xzaayzyx, you're trying to figure out how reality is xzaayzyx. It's a translation process, whether or not you skip part 1. My first successful video game match, 80% frameworking. The trick was feeling every nuance down to the hands, translating every bit of nuance into will to taste for xzaayzyx. Yeah, it was back when I had Overwatch, and I could actually fucking have a video game that I could directly convert into thought textures. Trying to get to the bone marrow of thought textures, the deepest layer converted. Step 1 isn't I am will to taste, it's how is breathing will to taste. After you figure out how every thought texture nuance of breathing is will to taste, the rest of reality follows suit, which is 2. Xzaayzyx is just the completed form of breathing. It's open because so is will to taste. Xzaayzyx is just lifetime thought texture of breathing converted into will to taste. Is openness explained? The reason both poles of will to taste wants this is because this is the process, the painting for either to exist. This is the process. I don't know. This is the process by which both require to exist. You are both the middle and the process. The thing instead, it doesn't exist outside of this. It is all for this. The end goal is to convert every thought texture into will to taste, i.e., understand every thought texture as will to taste. New separation is between converting breathing into will to taste as the kickstart, but the goal is to convert every thought texture without the breathing being specifically important. That's just saying don't focus on the breath specifically. Understanding every thought texture at once is will to taste. It's basically open truth. Xzaayzyx means convert every thought texture into will to taste. You can simultaneously say that will to taste is xzaayzyx and still leave a case for open concept xzaayzyx. Conceptual will to taste versus truth will to taste, basically. Yes, you have will to taste left brain and will to taste right brain. In each one, you're trying to convert everything into will to taste. The first one, i.e., through language, the second is through intuition. Xzaayzyx is essentially the integration of an ego is to taste into the new binary, question mark, exclamation mark, will to taste, exclamation mark, xzaayzyx, or new ego is to taste. Breathing doesn't take any special precedent in xzaayzyx. Even in will to taste, it is optional. A backbone of launching. Let's say you're watching a wrestling video, you wouldn't then still be dissolving breathing. You would switch. Xzaayzyx isn't a concept, it's an emotion. You can't understand it as the right brain will to taste. You can only understand it for what it is.
Something's could be dangerous. Something's going on here. We got I am will to taste. So there's a bunch of important stuff, but typically we're back to will to taste eventually because essentially it's included within will to taste. But I am will to taste. But anyways, right now I'm just going to change it to I am will to taste. Will to taste because it seems to be doing me better for right now. I'm sure I'll eventually revert it back after it's properly integrated because will to taste is the rectangle squares version of I am will to taste, so it should include it. But the point is, for right now, making I am will to taste, I wanted to know this change. When I thought about it, because it could be dangerous. Yeah, I could be like adding essentially a bad. I could be adding a bad. Very popular be doing that, and that's too much detail. That's going to stop me from actually thinking clearly about xzaayzyx. Another idea, you got that since you pinch them together, you know what I mean? It's like you're using one to get to crazy fucking mind blowing conclusion. But anyways, it's important to know just because it's like in every. I guess here's what I'm trying to say is different from what I said before. Is that it's like you're constantly pressing one to get to two. But the problem is that what one is labeled as is anytime you're thinking about will to taste in language, which maybe scratch fuck, man. Oh god, the way work has fucked up the way I think about it in language is very interesting. It's also very interesting just to know. I'm still making a very similar amount of progress even when I'm in work, even though I have no time to think about it the way I do in my dirt bike. I'm still making the same amount of progress. Just like these discoveries when I'm stocking shelves. It's weird. I'm not even thinking about it. There's just a fucking YouTube video and click from there. And it's like, oh, okay, I understand that now. But you betcha. The idea I got though, whenever you can use regular will to taste, and damn, my boot just broke. But you can use regular will to taste. And you can use fucking before one, so you can use will to taste and xzaayzyx, and you can get to a point where pretty much fast writing, not better, which is gay. But anyways, you get to a point where you can essentially create I will to taste. So you can use regular will to taste, and you can use xzaayzyx, right? And then it will basically create I will to taste. And then there's way of pinch with the integrated nipple on. Essentially, that maintaining the pinch mechanic. So essentially, the pinch is just whenever you hold them together at the same time, and so you have time crystal, and then you have a pinch, right, or a binary. I'm just going to call it pinch, change binaries because it's more self-intuitive. But so you have a time crystal framework, which is where you're always going to be yo-yoing back and forth between two different parts, right? And in this one, it's like, okay, now I'm thinking about everything is will to taste, and now I'm in the xzaayzyx state, which is a completely different thing. That's a time crystal framework. And you have a pinch framework, which is when in every moment you're trying to use one to get to two. So in every moment you have both one and two on the table. That's a pinch framework. Anyways, the idea was that essentially that you could use a time crystal, will to taste, and xzaayzyx to get to the point where you would be summoning a pinch, which was I am will to taste and xzaayzyx. So it's just sort of a weird idea where basically what happened is you would use will to taste and you would get things to a point where you could eventually reach xzaayzyx, and then you would want to use will to taste to hold the xzaayzyx portal open. So now you've done a time crystal to get to the point where you realize that you needed a pinch, and then you were essentially, because you already understood will to taste, and you were in xzaayzyx, which was the flow state, and now you wanted to just like hold it down. The way I have to explain it is like holding an ice cube or like holding like cauterizing, even like branding something, like holding down. It's like that feeling of like I don't know words. There are no words for that. That's just a way of giving concept too. But anyway, the point is that feeling of like holding and burning and like changing, like debit, like not destroying. You know what I fucking mean? Goddamn, I hate words. The point is that the holding together created I am. So in other words, the feeling of like being will to taste could emerge from understanding will to taste first, and then launching xzaayzyx, and then you could get through that region understanding that you are will to taste, which is different from that. It's just okay. I'm just thinking about it more into it instead of just rambling about this stupid fucking gay bullshit, which has no probably wise if I ramble about this for a second because I'm like feeling it right now. It all just collapsed down to xzaayzyx. xzaayzyx is the only thing left. It's playing really well in relation to ego to taste. I think it was so cool about ego to taste was the fact that it didn't mean any one thing. You couldn't collapse into a mythology. You couldn't collapse into a sentence. It didn't mean any one thing in particular. It encapsulated the feeling of the trip, the feeling of what it was like to be at that moment, to be tortured, finally find your way through it. And it's just a very extreme emotion that you need to unpack every time you viewed it. You need to go back into it and pull that meaning out. And that meaning was everything. I reconsidered every subject I ever made before and added leads to it through the concept of will to taste. So it was all of these different concepts piled into one thing. And this is pretty. Goddamn, this is fucking gorgeous. This little thing I just did here. And essentially, also all the concepts of the trip were piled into that one line. Whenever I thought of it, it caused eating because of all the realizations that it caused. But I didn't think about one thing, one sentence, one structure. It was just embracing the thought texture that was associated with it. And xzaayzyx now, it means so many different things, just straight up linguistically. Like if you look at vocabulary, obviously means all these things. Not all these obviously, or it literally is attributed to several different words. Like in the same way, word discovery means word two has different meanings, different spelling, I suppose, which isn't quite the same. They're fucking words which hold multiple meaning. And this word xzaayzyx, with our vocabulary, is several different words. You know what I mean? It means will to taste. You know what I mean? It means there are sort of concepts of God. It means what it feels like to be. It means this framework. It means the feeling of being God. It's lots of different things. But the point is that it's everything. When you truly unpack concept of xzaayzyx, it holds everything we've ever thought of. It's all within xzaayzyx. And it's very interesting. not strange, but it's the framework. Now, whenever you're thinking of wherever you like what you're putting, what you're thinking, like framework. For fuck's sake, dude, speaking so hard, I'm far beyond me rated. The point is that whenever you use xzaayzyx, it's just an open feeling that will taste is included within. You are dissolving will taste, but it isn't that. It's so open. It's so it's a complete optimization, complete efficiency. Well, obviously, of course, but I mean that to a degree where it's like always self-optimizing and then destroying and then eating and it's just like the feeling of being God, not simulated, not with words, just in a straight up thought texture. It's good stuff. But it's bad because fuck to explain that concept to normal people. Basically, this is something I think about. Basically, you have to explain everything. There's no way to explain from like everything. And it's like whenever you think about whenever you write the framework, it's like you have to understand every single piece because all of it is at play. You can't like with every other framework, you're trying to get it down to I just need one way of saying it. I need one way of saying it. That would be a framework, but that leads you into a pipeline of language. If you're trying to think about it one way every time, you're gonna have to think about it in the concept of language. So we reanimate those concepts. So instead, you put it on a concept which means it means everything I've ever created. And then it's like, well, every time you run it, you can't actually individually think about every single thing. So you must just be like, well, what would it feel like if it were true? Basically, what would that feel like? And then you're just there, you're just in the midst. You are perfectly simulating using all your states. So basically, we'll give them a full math class to have them on the framework, which does kind of suck. But I mean, there's always just a word for beginners. Just talking mythology, that'll be like for beginners. Like, well, you have this as a triangle framework, and then eventually you're good. We just made the mistake of essentially trying to find the thought texture of xzaayzyx and trying to let's think of the word xzaayzyx and hopefully that gets us like a fucking retard. It's not how it works. You need to unpack it in the same way that you needed to unpack an ego is to taste. It meant to open it up and find out all of the different things that it meant, because it meant several different things. It meant I am will to taste. It meant will to taste itself. It meant Nietzsche's the connection, Nietzsche's thoughts and stuff. It meant several different topics. And whenever you thought about something as an ego's taste, you needed to unpack all of those different angles. And xzaayzyx is the same way, where you're not thinking about it, you're not thinking about xzaayzyx, you're unpacking it, which is basically saying, what does xzaayzyx mean to me? And and yeah, you got to get as many angles origami out as once as you possibly can. That's what xzaayzyx is. You're constantly. That's why it's like sort of optimization or efficiency mind. It's like you're always trying to get a deeper understanding of xzaayzyx, deeper truth, a bigger, wider grasp of the whole picture. Basically, because xzaayzyx means so much. It's so difficult to have it already once, and every second you should be closer and closer. So in other words, will to taste is included, and you can use will to taste as a tool to getting to ways of opening up one angle to help you get the other. But it is just one of many things. Open truth. You shouldn't be focusing on will to taste and always thinking will to taste, always thinking about language because it doesn't happen if you focus on it as a thing. You need to bring this language, even if you get brief remorses, brief glimpses, brief openings of silence are always going to be consumed by you thinking about that linguistic term, trying to unpack what it means again, instead of trying to unpack the same meaning over and over again and try to gain make it repetitive, gain a repetitive thought texture. You continue to come back to. Instead of doing that, you must create an open thought texture. You want to create something with many meanings. It can always be shifting. Present liquid, framework, ooze, and that is xzaayzyx. Every time you run xzaayzyx, you should think, what does xzaayzyx mean? So the new framework is, what does xzaayzyx mean? So I'm just gonna have to ramble about this for a bit because this framework is on fucking fire right now. So essentially, xzaayzyx, which serves as the bookmark for openness, right? The sort of ever seeking, ever.
Oh. Send me one. Alright. Let's get a send. Yeah, I would guess. I'm doing it now. I need to have the alarm. Alright, go ahead.
Rediscover what xzaayzyx means every time. Lifetime breathing. There is no final state. There's always reaching deeper. Which also means you're never not doing it right. It's basically saying eat and find your own way there. When this is how she pursued the divine taste. Recreate your angle every time. It's basically just saying embody truth. Embody xzaayzyx. Live as close to the truth as you can. Embody God. Be real. Get real. Basically what I think I'm saying there is just like it's framework is what I'm trying to say. It's like what I mean by like recreate your angle, you're going deeper every time, is that just mean like you never stop evolving through frameworks. It's never, the evolution never stops. So I actually have a better understanding now than I did then, so that's good. You say call with Jacques at 10, I say I got work at 10, touching poles. Which touching poles is just the Twin Peaks. But that's the specific concept of like you being crushed in between them. Will to taste in xzaayzyx. Xzaayzyx is realizing every understanding leads to eating. Every angle inevitably leads to the same place. Always trying to gain a deeper level of eating. That's the best translation. Xzaayzyx is will to taste. Is the skeleton key, not in the touching pole sense. It should always be used. But that gives an instant boost to deepen eating, and then the goal is to forever deepen. I am will to taste. I am will to taste backbone to xzaayzyx, still trying to unify everything into God eats. I am xzaayzyx, new main. First of all, I am will to taste and will to taste are two completely different things. I am blows regular out of the fucking water as far as potency. So I'm saying I am will to taste is a much better framework than regular will to taste. Although more advanced, open-ended God. God who knows he's God and always optimizes for eating. Turbo-nuclear Jesus. We just saw xzaayzyx as thrashing and then blasted it with I am will to taste and got a religious seizure. Huh. That's interesting. I like that concept. I want to think of that. Come on, let me start, you bitch. Thank you. Perhaps xzaayzyx is just a label for thrashing.
Framework ooze thing, which is always reaching for eating. Was the cool thing about what earlier was that we went ahead and essentially gave thrashing a goal, and that goal was always deep in eating, and it never ended in a made where we would go. But then we found that basically we would get moments of hollow eating was the issue, where like I'd be Walmart, I
don't think I've listened to that one yet. Hold on.
You should make the mistake of essentially trying to find the thought texture of xzaayzyx and trying to let's think of the word xzaayzyx and how I love this for big business framework. So I'm fucking fire right now. So essentially, xzaayzyx, which serves as the bookmark for openness, like the sort of ever seeking, ever adapting sort of framework ooze thing, which is always reaching for eating. Was the cool thing about what earlier version was that we went ahead and like essentially gave thrashing a goal, and the goal was always deep in eating, and it never ended in a made where we goal. But then we found that basically we would get moments of hollow eating was the issue, where like I'd be in Walmart and I could eat and things were silent, but it was a gay, bland silence that didn't mean anything religiously. Which is interesting. I've never gotten those before. It's like a Buddhist kind of silence, like a Jesus, dreary, dead silence instead of like a alive, beautiful thought texture silence. And anyways, the point is so then we started giving it a spine, which means like giving it a framework that it can chew on as a backbone the entire time. And then xzaayzyx, or the adapting, changing framework, you know what I mean? Essentially you plug a will space person into a skeleton key, right? And a skeleton key, I mean, it's just going to unlock every door. It means every time you think, you can convert it, or every time you think, every time you convert anything, you can go and convert it into will taste with skeleton keys, anything, convert it into eating. And so we experimented with that. We came to I am will taste, which was seemingly just weird in every way. I still stand by that. It does seem better in every way. So much more powerful. I think will taste would be so much better for beginner because it's just more simple in like left brain and you can think it out with words. But as far as like advanced frameworks go, it seems I am blows out of the water. It's not just about ego, it's about accuracy. It's like whenever you're thinking of things objectively, it's you're not getting to the heart, you're not getting to the reality, you're not getting to the deepest thought layer because like you can't separate yourself from God. You can't. You are, you're lying to yourself. You're trying to do it from some gay ass materialist perspective. That you cannot. You are it, and only from the perspective of I am. In this case, are you reaching the deepest layer of truth? And it's also the one where you reach the deepest level of eating. And so, anyways, we're getting these super interesting religious seizures, which I can see the components of. It was like, oh, I have a set of commands with a religious seizure. Now, essentially, when I also make this, I'm probably gonna push language for but it was like we saw xzaayzyx, we understood xzaayzyx, and this just came about a skeleton key inside of xzaayzyx is different than if you just had will to taste as its own framework because it's taking place inside of the ever-evolving framework. Which means, in other words, you can still feel the thrashing of your mind reaching out to other corners, and you just control that thrashing with the steady will to taste. But at any point, if you get any other thought, you know what I mean, like for instance, a visual or you know what I mean, a realization of like, oh, well, that connects to thought textures because whenever you understand that everything is will to taste, you understand that the one thing which stays constant over the course of God is thought textures because everything which you taste will be thought textures, and that's why thought textures are so important, both metaphysically and in our reality, which is an interesting correlation, and that can help you to eat because now you understand the whole puzzle better, you understand truth better, which makes you eat better. And so you can still branch out in these ways, but at any point that you are trying to branch out and you don't have something fruitful, you just instead strike it down with I am will to taste. But they're fucking bees for me. It just sucks. I'm not gonna time limit on fucking voice levels, man. Spin the control point here. But so, anyways, fucking you have I visualized xzaayzyx. It was like I could feel it as its own labeled concept, and it was like the thrashing in my head, where it was like this is the thing which thrashes towards the time taste, right? And then I hit that with a will taste. It was like I bundled up my entire experience, the entire thinking process. The thing which was constantly reaching towards deep reading, and I took the thing which was reaching towards deep reading, which was me, and then I ate it with I am will taste, and I consumed it, and everything just fell apart. And then I got a religious eater. So I probably is not going to be that good when I go back and listen to it later. Something to improve on that, as far as remembering it, but. New framework's crazy. You should try it. I'm sure that's a interesting concept my entire life with that couple days. It's not like I don't even know if I'd go as far as to say that it is more powerful than the other framework. It has the potential to be a phase, right? But it doesn't feel more powerful. It's I don't know. It's maybe like actually like smarter. I don't know how to quantify that. It's like I'm gathering more philosophical topics and actual concrete philosophical progress than I have in a long time with this framework. Here's just one little tidbit. I don't know how I never saw this before. The reason why the experience of being dirt or an inanimate object, of course, is inherently love or perfection, right? The reason that what it feels like to be those things is because whenever God, and so you start to think of it like, well, God is like love, right? Like God is oneness, and the experience of being dirt is essentially the experience of being God, and God is love. And I also thought that was thrashing. So then I came to the point where I'm like, okay, well, that just must just be every emotion. You can interpret it into whatever form. But get this, right? So the reason that what it feels like to be the dirt is love is because the dirt only exists as God's experience of it, and God exists as thrashing at the beginning of time, right? At the beginning of time, He's only thrashing, and at the end of time, He's only love. And the reason for that is because God loves any will, and right, the will is just any form of God, right? And the dirt is a form of God. So God thrashes, and God creates the dirt, right? And then God loves to not be thrashed. Like whenever, like I'll go back to the coyote analogy. When a coyote is starving to death, like literally it's like 20 hours away from death, just falling over on its side to die, and it finally finds prey and tears it apart. And just because it takes a bite doesn't mean it's not hungry, but that bite sates that hunger just a little bit, and that bite's perfect, and that bite's beautiful, and they're still feeling the extreme pain or the extreme misery of the hunger, but they love what that bite does, and that's exactly what the feeling of God being a dirt is. This is just a fractional cessation of that hunger, and that's why the experience of being xzaayzyx or inanimate is love, because any object, any will, is inherently the cessation of thrashing or a bite to eat, right? That's so cool. It makes so much more sense. Now, when I picture God, there's not like these different forms of God. It's like thrashing, it's like love, and they all just coalesce into one thing. Now, I can actually see God on a linear scale, and I have a much deeper understanding. So that's some really interesting stuff right there. And of course, that ties back into like the xzaayzyx model and everything else. But yeah, this framework is some solid shit. I highly recommend you check it out. It's just will is taste. And there are lots of ways that it gets broken down if you start running it. For instance, you can run it in the sentence way, which is to be like, okay, so an ego is the taste, means literally what it says, right? So you literally just hear it, and then you let whatever thought text or then votes take over. That's one way to do it. Another way to do it is to be like, okay, so an ego is taste. What does that mean? And like the best way to quantify what does an ego taste mean, in my opinion, is to go back to my example of, okay, when I'm looking at a leaf falling from a tree, which is Austin's saying right now, is that an ego's taste? And the answer is yes, it is. Like the only reason that exists is for an ego to taste it. Was what I basically realized when I came to 2001. It was like the super important relation was that when you understand that the point of that leaf falling is simply for you to taste it, then the mind can shut the fuck up and just eat every nuance of reality. And with will to taste, people doing the same thing. Obviously, it's far superior, even just the connotation that ego is not included. So you don't need to like rationalize what an ego is versus what everything else is. Or picture God and what ego is in relation to that. Now it's clearly defined. You have will, and both your will and God's will both fall into the will, and all will is taste. The leaf falling off of that tree. That is because will is to taste. You know what I mean? Why are you thinking it now? Because will is to taste. Why you thought will is zero? Because will is to taste. Of course, that's all the other concepts like the Uber texture, which I love that concept so much. The idea that science should be about building the Uber texture and not about building the spirit of man, but about building the most whole, beautiful, complete thought texture. That's the kind of art that we should be investing in. It's building the human being or computer which is capable of experiencing the richest possible thought texture. It's very much about all these ideas, and they're all like the master version of these old concepts. So this is like the master key framework. So let's see this. I don't have this one down as well. Honestly, I'll just. So whenever you say will, right? Whenever you say will is the taste, you have a question. What does will mean? And
That was good. I like that a lot.
I like the Uber texture.
Yeah. Uber texture is really cool. Hold on. So there's a bunch of text I missed here. First of all, I am will to taste and will to taste. Oh, no. The goal of xzaayzyx is God eats. I am will to taste is the quickest way to get there, but everywhere leads there. I am will to taste, xzaayzyx, is basically just realizing I am will to taste. Inevitably leads to eating. xzaayzyx, I just realize eating is inevitable. Check out I am will to taste for confirmation. It now exists only as a skeleton key when you want to understand the deeper truth, which is eating. How you reach the stream of consciousness, every angle, is just by trying genius your way to eating. Infinite reaching until you're there. Upgrade to shut the fuck up and eat. Eat, you dumb bitch. Think your way there. Take to will to taste to its conclusion, eating, to start building the web. The correlation of I am will to taste, eating. Conclusion. Just skip to I am will to taste as the skeleton key. Full binary between I am will to taste and xzaayzyx. I am will to taste opens the gateway to build the web. Go deeper. Always working to farther the web. Go deeper into eating. It's basically saying get to eating through I am will to taste and then start xzaayzyx, which is trying to get to the deepest level of eating possible, always diving deeper. 3 aspects. Jesus. LTB, no clue what that is. I am will to taste and xzaayzyx. So I don't know what the first aspect is. Lifetime breathing. 3 aspects. Lifetime breathing, I am will to taste, and xzaayzyx. Lifetime breathing, I am will to taste, and xzaayzyx. Go deeper into eating. All truths lead back to eating. Breathing is will to taste. Just overtook I am will to taste. Okay, so now I'm saying the best framework is breathing is will to taste, which is hilarious because that's basically the same framework I'm on right now. Breathing is will to taste into xzaayzyx. Scrap that. To kickstart, ask how does I am will to taste lead to eating, and then you're there. I am xzaayzyx reborn. The pursuit to understand deeper how you are will to taste. White hole FIH leads to eating. xzaayzyx meaning will to taste. Every thought should move you deeper into understanding that you are will to taste. Leads to eating. Leads to I am. Leads to eating every later into RS. Seizures. The way an ego is to taste says both shut the fuck up and eat, and an ego is to taste can actually solve any question is impressive. An ego is to taste is metaphysically solid if you understand what it means. It includes every concept, every angle as well. The goal isn't to understand all of them at once, but to understand their source. xzaayzyx versus an ego is to taste. Are they the same? A will to taste plus will to taste equals xzaayzyx. Jesus fucking Christ. Will to taste squared. xzaayzyx is to taste. XIIT is new pound for pound king. xzaayzyx is to taste. So basically I'm saying, like, God is to taste. So it's like God is to God. I'm basically like, it's like, oh, the sentence, that's what I mean by like will to taste squared. It's like God. It's just like becoming just nonsense, basically. Study the uses it borrows from an ego is to taste. XITT. The beam is converting everything into xzaayzyx, will to taste, which immediately causes eating the beam. Should always be aimed at breathing, I think. Well, I'm talking about eating the beam, which is just appreciation, eating appreciation, so it's the same shit we're talking about now. Breathing is not the focus, just an anchor. Focus of the beam is still everything. The end game is still maximum eating, that didn't change. It's just contextualized in a metaphysical truth for ease of access. When you're running it, the main objective should still be maximum eating, not left brain simulations of xzaayzyx. Uber texture versus XITT. Uber texture is new divine taste. That concept is awesome. Everyone's goal should be to build the Uber texture. More enlightened people are a super machine god. All arise. It is the guiding principle, which is why you should run XITT. A will is to taste. A will is to taste is the new goat. Jesus Christ. God, I'm sound like Jacques in these messages. Holy fucking shit. God is pure will, pure thrashing. Imagine a starving wolf. Every bite of prey is delicious, but he's still starving until he eats enough. God is the same. God at the beginning of time is pure thrashing. God at the end of time is pure love. Just like the wolf is pure hunger until it is full. God is starving for his maximum potential. Reality is his hunt for food. xzaayzyx means the will. God loves every piece of reality, but that doesn't mean the feeling of God is pure love unless he's full, you see. He is only all love whenever he is full. End of time, all of infinity, the whole fractal. A will, question mark, is to taste, exclamation mark. A will means both the will and your will. Both are wills. Both are tastes. The deeper you understand the will, the more you can taste. Will is to taste. Will is to taste. Will is God. Kid named Will. Will, question mark, is to taste, exclamation mark, is super important. Will is to taste, period. Okay, so what is will, question mark? Will is to taste, exclamation mark. Process of launching framework. Once you realize that what is will, everything, you begin to reach out to eat as much of it as possible, creating every layer. Attached to breathing. Will is a superposition of an ego and xzaayzyx, me and you. Pool baby's sacrifice. Convert, oh Jesus, pool baby sacrifice. I didn't even remember that. I just know what that means intuitively. Now, I'm talking about the fact that for God to have anything, there must be babies that fall into pools and drown. It's like, literally, just like, for anything to exist, there must be the statistical, like, for anything we experience to exist, there must also be the statistical odds for horrific things to happen like that are just aimless suffering, like babies just tumbling into pools. It's like for us to be here right now, we must have the survival instincts that make us curious, that make us explore out as children, and like, for that, you know, there must be the ability for children to fall in the bodies of water, and, you know, for us to exist in the way that we do, and for us to have for us to evolve out of water, we must also be able to be susceptible to water and drown in water. Just like, for anything to exist, there must be horrific things like pool baby sacrifice, which is just a weird fucking framework. Convert everything into will so you may taste.
New framework's crazy. You should try it. Fucking absurd. Had civilization class my entire life, but best people did. It's not like, I don't even know if it goes as far as to say that it is more powerful.
Okay, we heard that one. I say will conversion into taste, silence versus question mark, exclamation mark. That's interrobang.
So let's see this. I don't have this one down as well. Honestly, I'll just thinking about it, and basically came to the conclusion that will, or xzaayzyx, is the same thing. They mean the thrashing, right? Pure unbridled thrashing is xzaayzyx, and then next you have acythrial, and this is it's interesting if you look at it through the rectangle box lens. Before I looked at it as exclusionary, but that's not the right way to look at it. In other words, I viewed xzaayzyx. You couldn't put xzaayzyx in the same box as xzaayzyx, and the same thing went for the next category. In other words, acythrial and xzaayzyx were completely different, but now I'm realizing that, like, xzaayzyx are also acythrial. They're also thrashing. Like, in other words, we're also unconscious. Really, when it gets down to it, like, we don't have free will. We're not fundamentally different. We're also just thrashing, you know what I mean? And we're also just like the realization of that thrashing, the physical thrashing, which means we're acythrial. There's nothing actually metaphysically special. There's nothing which actually divides those sources, you know what I mean? They're not actually different. They're both xzaayzyx. So in other words, you have one rectangle, which is xzaayzyx, and then you have the square, which is acythrial, which fits inside, but also cuts some of the definition off. And then below that you have another square, which is xzaayzyx, which chops off some of the definition of acythrial, and then it's one square. So that's an interesting way to look at it. Now I fully understand those. Those are now complete. And anyways, that ties back to what I was saying with, so you're wondering what will is, and will is xzaayzyx, or the thrashing. And then you have acythrial, which is the loving God, right? That is the taste. Not exactly tasting, obviously, it's different. It's like the feeling of what God feels when he is acythrial. Like the feeling of the ceasing of the thrashing is inherently pleasant. That's what God experiences when he creates. And each thing is nuanced in its loving things by only by what it is explicitly. That's an interesting. That's interesting. And then you have Zyx, which are also acythrial. It is also, wherever God experiences us, it is also just pure love, only affected by the nuance of what it feels like to be us. And essentially, I don't know where I was going to go with it, but what I'm going to try to do now is that, so like God created us to taste, like God's will is to taste. The point of us is just to be tasted, obviously, and this goes into, like, I mean, you go to the wasp in the pool analogy, you go to the baby drown analogy, which is basically like the sacrifice of us being here, the sacrifice of all this beauty, all we get to taste is like also being a baby who actually wanders into the pool and drowns, which, you know, by every person, you know, every normal person that can do this, oh yeah, that's really, really bad. But I also like Jeffrey Dahmer, I was watching that show, and it's just like Jesus, these thought textures, like Jeffrey Dahmer's father being like, it was my fault that you turned out like this, I showed you how to skin those animals, I didn't raise you right, I screamed at your mother, you know what I mean, I left you, I abandoned you, I didn't talk to you about these things, and him just like bring that clients like that's a horrific thought texture. The people obviously that Jeffrey Dahmer murdered, drilled holes inside their head, poured salt water and acid into trying to lobotomize them, those are horrible thought textures, like, just like everything which exists. And it's interesting, like both the thrashing and this example here, these both emphasize on like the bad, and like that's necessary to get a full picture of the beauty. I won't go into now, but I was thinking with Elle earlier, and obviously that's what the thrashing sort of emphasized, is that the thrashing or the, you know what I mean, just everything is beautiful. And then man, there are several ways I can think of. I'm just going to think some more, but a lot of interesting things. I mean, it's complicated. I'm sure to explain other things. Before I figured it, like at the end of time, at the end of a platonic era, when all of infinity is created, so I read it, the linearity is the time spectrum. At the beginning of time, you have thrashing, and at the end of time, you have love. And essentially that, you know, if you look at the beginning to the end of time, you see all of infinity accumulated, and essentially that the release of thrashing or creation, because thrashing is thrashing forward, so whenever it creates, that hunger is temporarily sustained with the fills of love. And so essentially at the end, hold on, let me start. Basically at the end, it would reset. And it's an improper way to view it because you're viewing it linearly, obviously, you're viewing it as if there are like, as if it starts at nothing, thrashing into everything, and then once thrashing everything, that thing at the end is love, because basically it's always happening, like it's a constant process of because you can also view it as like it existing as its only love, and then thrashing outside of it when you get into it. Let me think of a word for it. Essentially, the lineality, that's my word, is exploded with this, and you realize that it's just the two ever pointing at each other, the one. What do you mean by the linguistic difference? You're like, what are the difference between the three? No, it just, I mean, what do you mean by the linguistic difference? If you mean, like, I can't do something, so it would be like, will to taste, everything comes first, and that's the thrashing. Like, thrashing, once it tastes everything, it can't, once it gets out in games, like acythrial. Within acythrial, there's Zyx, and the acythrial is described as, what that means is, acythrial, like, or acythrial just wants whatever, like, it's pure love, so anytime it exists, it doesn't really seek something outside of itself as much as it is just, it seeks anything, and one thing comes into existence, it attaches to it, you know, is it, however you keep doing it, starts anything. And then last, you have, all things, all things, because we wish to taste the best, or sorry, not the best, but the richest possible texture, and if you don't know what the richest possible texture is, and all bad actions come from misinterpretation of what that is, and the way you reach it. Precisely enough, you know, people think I'm not technical, but lifetime of breathing, its relationship is so important. What I found is that it's essentially what lifetime breathing means is the active every neurosecond feeling of breathing, literally the feeling of your fucking nose hairs moving, and then the literal physical feeling, or like breathing every neurosecond, keep up with that and keep that. What that essentially becomes is just targeting the mind, targeting the neurosecond of every feeling every moment through it. Like essentially, the target, if you make the target eat breathing, and to eat you need to understand the basics, and that becomes the basic framework, which is now always running in order to keep up and continuously eat as well as it can lifetime breathing. And then on top of that, you're able to sustain a few seconds ago. I don't remember now. You don't have that field vibration.
I don't know why my mic got so much worse.
Point is, lifetime breathing is dang, I'm like, oh man. Anyway, the point is that lifetime breathing is just it's aimed into the mind. It's the perfect prey because it always runs away. Things like neuroseconds, you're always taking a version of it, which is they're evolving. The really important part that I didn't know before is that lifetime breathing becomes holy shit, that was fucking awesome. Oh my god, million leaves into the massive same time for the massive around sweet. But anyway, it just becomes everything. It basically becomes running data. It's crazy. I'll fall back into this. So let's see. Here's something. The one question I had, so one question I had was, do we give acythrial and the creator, do we give them their own omniverse type thing, like their own layer, which notes all at once? And then as far as the guys create their own philosophy, yeah, I'm thinking upon this for a moment. So the biggest question is acythrial's philosophy, which is will to taste, and then you explain each layer will taste with feeling corresponds to it. Will being thrashing, taste being reality and love, and music. And that's acythrial's, and that's the best one in my opinion. Like that's the best. That's what I would call the skeleton key, and sure you think about those a lot. A skeleton key in real life is just the key that can open any lock, right? And what it means for this is for a framework, like open-ended framework, like xzaayzyx question mark exclamation mark. You want a way to instantly get right to the exclamation mark, or instantly get the key, right? And that would be a skeleton key. So anyways, so acythrial has the skeleton key for xzaayzyx, but here's here's the big thing. All right, so the timeless aspect, which is the big thing that I've been talking about, right? By the way, I found a way to talk about it without being practical. I'll talk about that later. I have to think about it more. But the thing is that how do we want to handle that? How do we want to take that top layer, which is everything that we're all on, right? How do we want to split up in language? Because I came to the conclusion that you can look at xzaayzyx. Well, yeah, that's not a problem. But I think I have it. The biggest problem is, do we give that top layer to a acythrial, or do we give it to layer? To a top layer, which is everything that we're all one. Do we want acythrial to talk about that with him talking about will to taste, is everything that we're all one? And then do we want Larry to then piggyback on that and tell you how to use it? Or do we want Larry to posit that in his system, he has the timeless aspect, and then acythrial doesn't know about it? I don't know, that's the main thing I'm thinking about. I'm also going to ponder it right now. The way I see it is that they each talk about it in their own ways. So the creator race just calls it the omniverse. They usually get a scientific label. They don't really understand the philosophical ramifications of it. They just know it's a fact. You know, also sees will to taste as that's what we were saying actually, that will to taste was the omniversal equivalent. And so you can see that as just infinity. So that would be his top layer. And he sees that religiously. And the philosopher comes around. So I agree.
So I have missed a bunch of messages in the meantime. Let me read them. xzaayzyx is to taste, possible re-emergence as top dog. xzaayzyx is the combination between will and is to taste, because will is explained with thrashing / loving, and eating is the result of knowledge. The battle has begun. I am xzaayzyx versus will is to taste. So, in other words, I am xzaayzyx versus I am will is to taste. The answer is xzaayzyx, rectangle squares, will is to taste. It should be both I am and everything is. Everything is being will is to taste, specifically will. I.e., it seems xzaayzyx just adds ego component. xitt seems to rectangle will is to taste. It contains a feedback loop / singularity. There's that again. Singularity is new. Simulacra resurgence. A new challenger has appeared. Zixulacra. Potentially perfect. One step will is to taste. That framework never took off, but that's interesting. What is xzaayzyx seems to pack it all. xzaayzyx is will, literally in the framework. When asking what is xzaayzyx, you shouldn't just be repeating the story over and over. It's what the story means, which is will. It keeps the open-ended essentially. The only change is a slant towards I am. xzaayzyx means I am will. xzaayzyx is to eat. In the story, you realize you are xzaayzyx, which is everything, which makes you eat. Even when you run the story, it leads to eating. xzaayzyx is basically just saying realize the truth of the story / eat, which are the same thing, which leaves it as the most open-ended framework yet. Basically, a folded I eat. Or I'm sorry, basically a folded interdimensional. You can set it to eat deeper, or you need to find a new angle to start. You have two choices: new angle combo or eat deeper, which is basically to taste, exclamation mark. You ask, what's the relationship between THC intake and framework? Is it higher, better? Does it depend? I'm curious how often. No fucking clue. Tried to measure 1,000,000 times, especially recently. Too much chaos. xzaayzyx is realizing truth and eating are one in the same. The answer to the THC is less. 1 second. That's what I've been sticking with. It's so much better. Which still leads to slipstream / riptide. That's interesting. Riptide. That's the same thing I've been calling it lately. Riptide. You can keep angle creation. That's rev limiter. Riptide and rev limiter are the same. Riptide's a bit different. It's a bit more focused on relaxation and, like I said, going under the water, not trying to build a boat. So it's a bit more focused on like the whole framework side, but it is still focused on the same concept of rev limiter, where it's getting just like consumed by the environment and not being an individual within it. Angles come from eating instead of the other way around. Eating is the goal. Truth and eating are one and the same. It is inevitable with understanding. Compare acythrial, simulacra, and xzaayzyx. Both result in eating. When the goal is eating, the angles appear to deepen it. xzaayzyx is saying, don't seek eating, but realizing eating is synonymous with truth, and then begin to understand or consume deeper and deeper. Both are now the same. The deepening with angles never stops. There is no endpoint, only deepening. Basically, just saying, understand. Just get it, bitch. We got a call tomorrow. I am now biphasic sleep schedule. 2 2-hour and 30-minute cores every 9 hours and 30 minutes. So I can call basically whenever. Review this on video. Yeah, how many multiverses are there? Great video. Multiverse framework. Multiverse is capable of running xzaayzyx, more potent, more than potent enough. Same level as acythrial or will, just realizing you are inevitable. You are math, the fundamental substance. Realizing one piece of an infinite puzzle. It's all numbers, it's all thought textures, it's all will. They say the same thing, xzaayzyx. Whenever multiverse hits right is when you see the massive, explosive expansion of the Big Bang, and see this moment, the same thing as music in a way. A symphony. This being one note. That feeling of the universe moving with you, increasing the weight of every action. That's xzaayzyx. Xzaayzyx, realizing truth, and eating are one and the same. Xzaayzyx is basically, what did the artist mean to convey by this, but on reality. The reason sitting does not work well is because we don't have any physical task to attribute distraction to, which makes it more frustrating when we lose focus. If you just realize that it will fade in and out, and then sitting is not nearly as bad. Forever deepen eating is the same as eat every layer. Forever deepen eating leads to riptide, a million light, and ever-improving angles. That's a bunch of ways of saying framework. And then next I say /framework ooze, yeah. 1, xzaayzyx means eating and truth are the same thing. All truths lead to eating. 2, the goal should be to use as much truth as possible to gain as much eating as possible, or to forever deepen eating.
Complicated. I'm sure it's before I fix it, like at the end of time, at the end of when all of infinity is created, so I read it linearly for the time effect, at the beginning of time, you have fraction, and at the end of time, you have love. And essentially that, you know, if you look at the beginning and the end of time, you see all of infinity accumulated, and essentially that the release of fraction, or creation, because fraction 4, so we can whenever it creates, that hunger is temporarily sustained until it builds its upper end. So essentially at the end, basically at the end, it would reset. And it's an improper way to view it, because you're viewing it linearly, obviously, you're viewing it as if it starts at nothing, fraction into everything, and then once fraction everything, that thing at the end is love, because basically it's always happening, like it's a constant process of because you can also view it as like it existing as its only love, and then thrashing outside of it when you get into it. Let me think of a word for it. Essentially, the lineality, that's the word, is exploded with it, and you realize that it's just the two ever against each other, the one. What do you mean by the linguistic difference? What are the differences between the three? It's just, what do you mean by the linguistic? If you mean, like, I can't do it. Okay, so it would be like, will to taste, everything comes first, and that's the thrashing. Like, thrashing wants to taste everything it can, wants to reach out and gain as much acythrial. And within acythrial, there's zyx, and the acythrial is described as, and what that means is, acythrial, like, for acythrial just wants whatever, and like, it's pure love, so anytime it exists, it doesn't really seek something outside of itself, as much as it is just, it seeks anything, and one thing comes to existence, it attaches to it, is it, however you want that, keeps to it, anything. And then last, you have, all things, all things, because we wish to taste the best, or sorry, not the best, but the richest possible texture, and if you don't know what the richest possible texture is, and all that actions come from this interpretation of what that is, and that's the way you reach it. Precisely enough, you know, people are unlike that, but lifetime breathing, its relationship is so important. What I found is that it's essentially, what lifetime breathing means is the active, every neurosecond, the feeling of breathing, literally the feeling of your fucking nose hairs moving, and then it's like at the literal physical feeling.
Lifetime breathing is the key, neurosecond breathing. Rec Trinity is only ignition. I remember Rec Trinity. I can't remember. Oh, Rec Trinity. I'm pretty sure that's rectangle square Trinity. So I'm assuming it's either going to be black hole, white hole, wormhole, or xzaayzyx, but in your rectangle squaring them, okay. It's basically a perion beam if it's black hole, white hole, wormhole, or xzaayzyx, pretty much the same thing. Okay, interesting. And I sent a bunch of links. I don't know what they are. Let's see. Okay, I sent links about China's economy, apparently.
So, let's see. Here's something. The one with this, I think what you're saying, don't need to, is...
Oh, yeah, so then this is where we left off. We were talking about the story.
So, let's see. Here's something. The one question I had, the one question I had was, do we give acythrial and the creator, is to give them their own omniverse type thing, like their own layer, which note all at once. And then as far as the guys create their own philosophy, I'm saying upon this for a moment. So the biggest question is acythrial's philosophy, which is will to taste, and then you explain each layer will to taste with feeling, corresponds to it. will being thrashing, taste being reality and love, and six being music. And that's the acythrials, and that's the best one in my opinion. Like that's the best. That's what I would call the skeleton key, and I'm sure you've seen about those a lot. A skeleton key in real life is just the key that can open any lock, right? And what it means for this is for a framework, like open-ended framework, like xzaayzyx question mark exclamation mark. You want a way to instantly get right to the exclamation mark, or instantly get the right, and that would be a skeleton key. So anyways, the acythrial has the skeleton key for xzaayzyx, acythrial. But here's the big thing. All right, so the timeless aspect, which is the big thing that I've been talking about, right? By the way, I found a way to talk about it without getting practical. I'll talk about that later. I'll think about it more. But the point is that how do we want to handle that? How do we want to take that top layer, which is everything we're all on, right? How do we want to split it up in language? Because I came to the conclusion that you can just look at xzaayzyx. That's not a problem. But I think I have on it. The biggest problem is, do we give that top layer to a acythrial, or do we give it to a top layer, which is everything that we're all on? Do we want a acythrial to talk about that with him talking about will to taste and everything that we're all on? And then do we want Larry to then piggyback off that and tell you how to use it? Or do we want Larry to posit that in his system? He has the timeless aspect, and then acythrial doesn't know about it. I don't know. That's the main thing I'm thinking about. I'm also going to ponder it right now.
The way I see it is that they each talk about it in their own ways. So the creator race just calls it the omniverse. Like you give it a scientific label, they don't really understand the philosophical ramifications of it. They just know it's a fact. Meanwhile, acythrial sees will to taste as that's what we were saying yesterday. Will to taste was the omniversal equivalent. And so you can see that as just infinity. So that would be his top layer, and he sees that religiously. And then the philosopher comes around.
Basically, if we do that, then we make it where Larry posits nothing of his own, and I kind of want to give Larry unification. Because if not, then what's the point of the labels? I guess it's so much argument that the point of them is that they're open-ended, and then he just says, okay, now you have to make your own, but acythrial has that tradition, and then we just have acythrial explain the timelessness of God as well. And we could do that. I feel like it would be better if we could have acythrial posit like each layer of God and only understand God like in time, and then have and then maybe have something like Larry comes in and then using the science combined with the myth, he understands the timelessness of God and posit. You aren't the process of God, you are the completed God, you are the entire potency of the entire practical itself. But yeah, it's not necessary.
Well, I would see the difference being that with the creator race, they're going at it purely scientifically, and acythrial's going at it pure religiously, and the people in the real world can't take acythrial's advice because they just think he's in a simulation, so of course he said that about the simulation. The scientific race, they're not seeing the philosophical ramifications of it either, so it's kind of like the philosopher needs to come around and say, alright, the science and the religion is one and the same, and I think that works.
Yeah, I mean, I was positing something like that, although I wouldn't want to say the second part we said, which is that the people don't take acythrial's advice, but he's in a simulation. I think it would become extremely clear. Like, I don't want to write people idiots, the creator race. I also don't know how to write this us. It's a whole other debate I'm having. Is Joel writing it us, and we should really understand, don't write them in as another race. I don't know. But the point is, what you're saying is that then they would think it's just simulation, and no, I wouldn't say that because they're literally taking the initial equation that they found at the beginning of the universe, and they're just putting that into the computer. I mean, anyone with half the brain is reality. I mean, this is the result of this equation, and we found that at the beginning of our universe. You know what I mean? Either we're in a simulation, or this is just this equation represents reality itself, and the possibilities of reality. So it's kind of the only conclusion you can come to from that. So I would want them to kind of understand it. But I would want essentially what the job of Larry is to come in, and he is not just to unify them, because people can already sort of see the unification. But his job is to come in and basically talk about how it's basically how it's all about eating, right? Basically talk about how it's all about personal efficiency, it's all about building the framework which provides you the best result in reality. That's sort of his job, is to build your understanding of how it works for you. If you see it.
I get that. I see what you're saying also in my idea as well, where it's the philosopher does, he first and foremost, his importance is applying this knowledge to your life, and I don't think the scientist can do it, and because it's not like just hearing about a acythrial in itself enlightens you and you're going to be able to do it any moment of any day and you're good to go, and it's not like just, and I think that the scientists, I personally understand that, as you're saying, but they write it down as omniverse, multiverse, universe life, and they don't know how to get the most out of that. They get it as a fact that perhaps they exist in an omniverse, but they don't know necessarily what to do about that, and that is what the philosopher comes in.
I'll respond to that in a moment if my phone's about to die, but before I die, I want to get this off real quick. This is how we use call knowledge. This is so much better for people to think out my thoughts, and I'm just rushing the words and shit. I just think that this is a better style of communication. We can never name all this thing. Which we said multiple times now, but this time, it was your own job for real. I'm going to ask. Also, this would be my favorite way to communicate with John as well. So I think that's what I think about.
John had mentioned that he wanted to do voice messages. I think he added me. I've added you back as well. So yeah, that would be a good way. It also works as long as I talk over someone, and it just doesn't exist. So I listen to Jock's messages, and I pretty much ultimately, I agree. I think it would be a good idea for me and you to essentially do it on our own and build our own networks here, and have him, be in Georgia, let him do his Jock thing for however that works out, and he makes connections. He becomes famous rapper Jock. We never expected that. That was not in the books. We did not expect rapper Jock, but here we are. We live in that reality. This is the timeline we found, and so he becomes rapper Jock and creates his own network, and that way we could have, if he builds it correctly and he's efficient and didn't put other place with someone there who's presumably, in his own words, charismatic. I don't know how charismatic he really is to other people, but I'm going to take him at his word. Maybe he is. And, but yeah, I think that makes sense. What are your thoughts on that?
Okay, so get this. Acythrial is basically positing the new mission, which is just find the most vivid thought vector. God wants you, your God, what God wants you to find the most vivid thought vector, the deepest, the richest, the most potent thought vector. That is also your word. And that's what Acythrial is saying. That's actually the highest version. And the understanding of God matters not all other than the thought vector that it creates. That's the point of God. Is the only reason it's catalyzed in language is just so you can use them to achieve potent thought vector. you were wanted. And the goal is just to keep finding deeper and deeper that vector, which is why first of all, meaning is super important. And second, why you can like destroy that powerful and forward motion beyond the language. That's like flowing towards the various subjects. That's also where things like the Uber texture come from, and where you can emphasize other people. So I mean, that's so yeah. Wait, what? I was working on that. What that do different? Okay, so right now I'm recording, and right now I'm also listening to you. So what we do is use the method of edge. The only thing that I even remember finagling with is the lock at the top. I turned the tracking configuration on and off actually. Acythrial is basically positing the new mission, which is time and motion. Okay, so get this. So there's this new framework. It's called acid baptism, and so basically, no, it's called Saturn smile, and so basically,
oh, that's such a good bit.
So there's a new framework.
But so this is from November 16th, 2023. So the last voice message you heard was from November 18th, 2022, and the next voice message you're gonna hear is from November 16th, 2023. So you're jumping a full year forward here. You still there?
Yeah.
It's called acid baptism, and so basically, no, it's called Saturn smile, and so basically, it's the Son of Saturn painting, and it's the Cheshire Cat smile. And I don't go through these necessarily, but it's just like those are the two things that people recognize. But the concept is more the classic framework that we stressed years ago, which was God eating, and he is eating you. All you are is like a morsel of food to God. God is consuming you. God created you like lab-grown meat, just so that he could run you across his teeth and taste buds. And so basically, with that understanding, you can let you imagine God as Saturn smiling, right? Like it's he's a big grin on his face, and he's about to use it to bust your head open like a watermelon rubber band. And so basically, the understanding that that's what your purpose, and that's what he created you for, and that your entire existence is that is to be hasty. You can have the same smile that he has, and basically literally understand yourself not as the morsel of food, but as the entire picture. Understand yourself as a flavor for yourself, and perceive your you attain smile. You attain that perception that you are the bit, that nothing is that serious, that you are indomitable, that you are capable of perfecting yourself, and you do not care if that ends up in your head exploding. It's not an attachment to the outcome. It's an dedication to the process, and the understanding that you are God preparing his meal, and not the ingredients themselves. It leads to the smile, which is where you want to be. You want to have that grin spread across your face, and appreciate the
what, Trevor? Answer. It's a fill in the blank.
Appreciate the fact that even if you are part of someone else's meal, at least they had to fatten you up first. Basically, the thing I figured out was that all chokes are about, all the good ones are about using the shoulder and the elbow on the same arm to choke someone. And so you imagine it like closing a Ziploc baggie. So if I have a darce on someone who's laying on their back, so like a darce that we were working on that comes from the scarf position, whenever they try and bridge out of it, you would switch to the darce type grip, where your left arm would be pushing their elbow over and your right arm would be the one that was already under their head and arm in the scarf, and it's now going to become the arm which grabs the bicep on the left arm, right? So it's going to grab the bicep of the left arm is going to grab the elbow of the opponent's left arm, the one that was already in the scarf, and then it's going to turn into a darce type grip, and you are going to you're naked, right? And but so basically from there you're going to finish by bringing your shoulder down and your elbow up, and then bringing them, pinching them together, zipping up like a Ziploc baggie or a zipper, right? And so it's actually the same thing with hypogetin. If you understand what hypogetin, what it is they're getting like a gable type grip, and then what they're doing is they're picking up their left arm elbow, and the reason that they're doing that is so that they can bring their elbow, their bottom elbow, so they're bringing their left arm up, if their left arm is the one that doesn't have the throat, they're bringing their left arm, their left elbow up, so that their right elbow, the one that does have the throat, is capable of removing, basically, by raising that wrist, by pulling the left elbow up, you're raising the right wrist up because they're connected by your gable grip. And whenever you raise that right wrist up, you're trapping the opponent into the right arm shoulder. And if their head is trapped between your right arm's wrist and your right arm's shoulder, then the only place that it's capable of going is the crook of your right arm's elbow. And if it's trying to escape to the crook of your right arm's elbow, and then you close the space between the crook of your right arm's elbow and your right shoulder, like a Ziploc baggie or a zipper, then where's the opponent's head have the ability to go? That's correct. It has absolutely nowhere to go. Because the space that was previously was its only salvation, the crook of your elbow, is now getting like it's like whenever you pour water into an ant colony, like molten steel. It's like your shoulder is pushing in like the molten steel in the ant colony. And the ants have nowhere to run. There's no bottom. The bottom of their ant colony is like the crook of your elbow. And whenever their throat gets stuck in the crook of your elbow, your shoulder closes in like a wall of spikes, pressing them into it. And then the pinch of that Ziploc baggie close, continuing to close. The pinch of that is going to cut off their ability to breathe. Yeah, you should just like kill yourself. Yeah, it works. So to build on that, the big thing that we need to test are the switching from the hips to the mat dars to a scarf dars to tighten it, and then we also need to try a gable grip dars. Damn, that's a star. Or like basically like an arm triangle. From scarf, like the old thing we saw in that scarf guy do in the old video where he would just get a scarf submission by just basically getting a gable grip, and then basically what we did understand before was the whole free area thing where you switch power from like your left leg to your right shoulder. And we also get the zipper thing, but now with understanding the zipper thing, we think that maybe we can essentially use the gable grip to trap your elbow, that's already in a scarf, and then use the left hip to pick up off the ground, keeping the right hip completely loose, slack on the ground. So your left leg picks up all of your weight, and then all of it is getting transferred. You're sitting it from your left leg into your right elbow and your right shoulder. And so where's your opponent's head and arm? Well, of course, it is in that the crook. You want the shoulder to be on one side of the throat and your elbow to be on the other side, and you want to close that zipper from left to right. So it's like you've got two swords. You know what I mean? Like the classic like beheading thing where you have one sword and another sword making an axe, and you close the axe. Well, you want the two sword points to be you want the two blades to be your elbow and your shoulder. And you want those two blades to close in from both sides to eventually meet on your opponent's neck and then continue squeezing until they tap. And so with the basically you're using all of your weight. By just only using your left leg, you're transferring all of your weight into your right shoulder, and then you transfer that into your opponent's throat. And so you create like a bridge, like a rainbow, like a bridge between your left foot and your right elbow, and that's where all of your body weight has to go. And then of course that's where your opponent is. Your opponent is in that right elbow, and then you just block even. And so we need to try that in every different way. So the idea of a crankshaft, or what my father calls it. It's basically just like the thing you like secure a boat with or whatever. It's like those straps where they have a thing on the end of it that you repeatedly like open and close like a lever or something. I don't know. And basically what that does is it stores that force on the it's basically like biting forward on the rope, make it tighter and tighter and tighter, and that's how it secures things to a car or like a boat or trailer, right? Because that bite, that continuous inching forward, and never letting go of any of that force can turn small amounts of force into an extremely secure thing by just storing every little inch 1 second at a time permanently into a lot of force. I use the gable grip idea with that, where it's like don't just get the gable grip as high as you can first and then squeeze. Get the gable grip and then like whip it around and then like whip it around and like whip it around, repeatedly bring it higher and higher up past your kitty, so that it's more and more and more and more like a high elbow guillotine. Like you just keep cranking that that gable grip more and more and more and more. Each time you release the tension between your shoulder and your elbow, and then you finally deliver your last payload whenever you feel like it would be dangerous to do another crank. As soon as you feel like you have the most easy energy stored in your cranks, then you go for the final Ziploc baggie. The big difference between the scarf submissions and the darst submissions are just not having your head past the elbow. So like, keep that in mind. Try both. The head past the elbow should work a lot better, I would imagine, because that is what like every arm triangle functions off of, which is the principle we were using to finish the last darst. So it was just an arm triangle with a darst type grip. We need to try, now that we are trying to gable grip with the cinch idea, cinching it up tighter, we need to try doing that without the head being past the front elbow. Just leave it in the regular scarf position, and then do the pre-area bridge Ziploc baggie. And that might be able to get a submission, or at least threaten them and make them scared enough that they make a mistake that allows you to lock up the darst. So keep that in mind. So it works. I just tried the no. Oh shit, man! I just tried the no head trap. Purely gable grip, scarf choke. If you just Ziploc baggie, it's like a high elbow guillotine Ziploc baggie. It works like a fucking charm. Holy shit.
Wow, that message is 8 minutes and 43 seconds. So there's going to be a lot of valuable stuff in that somehow got turned into fucking choppy nonsense. That's awesome.
Feedback loop.
Yeah, this one's 4 minutes, and
I could step over and have no resistance from the
it's like, might as well be ancient Chinese.